PowerPoint. What exactly are you going to be doing?
I'm showing.
Oh, all of it?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I kind of want to watch the clock, so I might be standing over here a little bit.
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to get started. Welcome to Untitled Chapter Open House. Welcome to the How to Navigate Choosing a Career session. I'm going to spend about the next 15 or 20 minutes sharing with you the process that we use to help our prospective students and our current students navigate choosing a career that is going to work best for them. I'm going to start with some common myths about choosing a career. Now, the first one is choosing a career is simple, and I think that's important to put out there because I think a lot of, keep in mind this is a myth, it's not a fact, and a lot of people struggle in making this decision, and partly it's because it begins to feel very overwhelming when you're a junior or senior high school in particular, like feeling like you're making this big choice, and if you make the wrong choice, it's going to somehow be detrimental to your future. There's more than one right career choice. I think that's also very important to recognize. It's not that you're looking for a needle in a haystack and you have to pick the exact one. But what our job here is to do is to try to help navigate you and get you sort of in the right category of jobs. And I don't know if any of you have stopped by yet in the application room. Because if you go in there and you're undecided, they're going to take you in another room to have you do a little survey to try to see if your interests are sort of clustered in one area. That is how we begin to sort of help you identify what programs we have here at Untitled Chapter that might be the better fit for you. Another thing, myth that we need to identify is oftentimes I'm a career counselor and I get students and prospects that come in with hopes that I can pick the application for you. I also hear many times people will say, well, do you have a test that will tell me what to do? And I always say I would probably be unemployed if there was just a test, and most of you wouldn't be here because they would give you that test in high school. And many of you, how many of you have taken an interest in high school? Okay, many of you have, or you've taken something online. And you're still here because that didn't provide the answer that you were looking for. Because there's really more. An interest inventory is good because it helps, like I said, put you kind of in that cluster, but you still need to do more to navigate what might be best for you. Third myth, I can't make a living from my hobby. Not necessarily saying your hobby will be what you choose in terms of your career, but it's a good place to start as a young person and to help navigate through the things that you have interest in, the things that you're potentially good at, your skills, the things that you value. So, we start with what we have. Obviously, for young people, your life experiences are minimal to those that when I work with people in their 40s and their 50s doing career planning. So, as a career counselor, I work with students ranges from 16 well into their 50s and 60s, and depending on where you're at in your stage of life, will determine kind of that information that you have about yourself. Myth number 4, I should choose a career from the best careers list. So oftentimes we'll reference like what are those hot jobs, and oftentimes those hot jobs are the jobs in most demand, which jobs that you're most interested in doing, or the ones that you become most skilled at. And also the best career jobs, they usually have a list of the highest paid jobs. So it's not bad to take a peek at those lists, but you might find that look at those top 10 lists and you go, you know what, none of that stuff interests me. But they might have a job outlook and they might have good pay, which are all good things to consider. But we'll talk a little bit later about career planning is sort of like putting a puzzle together. So, job outlook and pay are two of the puzzle pieces, but there are other puzzle pieces that you need to consider. And then, which leads to number 5, making a lot of money will make me happy. Certainly, money is why we work, and it's necessary, and there are certain things that we all need to provide for basic needs. But if I were to ask all of you right now, like how much money would be enough, I guarantee you I would have a huge range in that number that people give to me. And that's basically because people have different lifestyles, they have different desires, they have different values, and that indicates maybe the type of earning potential that they want looking at a career. So once again, it's part of the puzzle piece, but it certainly isn't the whole puzzle. There's a lot of people that make a lot of money in their occupations that are very miserable going to work every day. So that puzzle piece alone isn't enough, but certainly it's part of the conversation that we have when we're doing career counseling. Another myth, once I choose a career, I'll be stuck in it forever. That sort of brings me back to my introduction when I said that a lot of people feel overwhelmed because they feel like if I choose something, this is going to sort of develop my life story and I'm either going to be happy or not happy with it. Latest statistics will indicate that the generation coming out of high school right now will have careers, 5 to 7 different careers in their lifetime, and 10 to 15 jobs they'll have. So know that this is sort of your foundation, it's your springboard, and as we develop through our lives, we learn more about the world and work. New jobs become available. I always joke and tell people, when I graduated from high school, there was no such thing as the internet. Okay, so when I was making a decision about a career, think about the jobs that are created because of the internet. So know that, particularly with technology, there are jobs that will be there in 10, 15 years that don't even exist today. So what we really need to know is, what you really need to do is maybe take some pressure off yourself if you're feeling that pressure to make the right decision. If you make the wrong decision, it's going to be the end of the world. Because navigate through that as you learn more information about yourself. If my best friend is happy in a particular field, I will be too. Oftentimes I'll hear people come in, well, so-and-so is doing this, or my parents suggested I would do this. Not saying that information is not correct or might not be helpful, but you maybe would like it or you maybe wouldn't. So I guess my point on that myth is don't defer your decision to someone else. I think a lot of times when we're struggling and we feel undecided, we can resort to going, just pick it. Oftentimes I'll get students in my office and they'll say, they'll have started a program and realize it's not the right fit, and then they seek out career counseling. We help them navigate what program might be a better fit. And sometimes I'll hear, well, I did it because, my sibling did it, they really liked it, or my parent did it, they really liked it, or my friend, or so-and-so told me they thought I'd be really good at it. So it's not bad taking in some of that advice, but no, that advice alone isn't how you make your decision. And then all I have to do is pick an occupation, things will fall into place. That's sort of a myth because career planning is a lifelong process. Particularly with the generation coming out of high school, you are going to navigate this throughout your life if you want to remain happy and satisfied, because a job that might make you happy in your 20s may not provide that same satisfaction in your 30s, may not in your 40s, which is why we're seeing people change careers and jobs. And then myth number 10, which I think is really important also, some people believe that, there's little I can learn about it until I actually do it. Which for hands-on learners, oftentimes it feels that way. Like they don't want to read about it, they don't want to research it, they just want to get in there and try it for a while. So what we do in terms of assisting and supporting people in exploring occupations is we get you connected to our faculty open house. It's a great opportunity to be able to high school that are exploring careers, check out with your guidance office. Do they offer any job shadows, those types of things? I don't know if any of you in here are interested or think you may be interested in healthcare occupations, but there's the Fox Valley Healthcare Alliance that's part of our community that offers free job shadows, half day, full day. They offer career experience sessions. So students come to us and they say, you know, I think I want to pursue one of your health programs, but I have no idea which one. That's one of the things that I encourage you to start with. Is let's see if we can arrange some job shadows and start looking at those types of things. So I'm going to show you a basic outline of what career development looks like here at Fox Valley Technical College. So 3 steps: self-awareness, self-assessment. So that's when we do some of those paper pencil inventories, but it's really more of a conversation with you. So I sit down with people one-on-one and I tell me about yourself. What do you like? What don't you like? What are your hobbies? What classes do you excel at? What classes do you avoid at all costs? So once again, I see you as the person that has the puzzle pieces, and I ask you questions to fill in those pieces. And my job is sort of to help you start putting those puzzle pieces together to see how it might relate to employment or a career. We do have some paper pencil assessments on your interests and your values and your skills, because it's important to get that information up to the front, and sometimes people can't really verbalize what it is until we give them sort of some selection. Well, if you were to pick one or the other, what would you pick? So that gives us some of the puzzle pieces. And then we just talk about your life experiences. And once again, when you're 16, 17 versus 30, 40, life experience conversation looks a little bit different. Because with our life experiences, we learn about things that we do well, what things we struggle with, we learn about the things we enjoy, we learn about the things we want to avoid. So that's a huge part of that self-assessment is, I like to say self-awareness, because an assessment automatically indicates that we're going to assess you and tell you what you're going to do, when it really is more of us having a conversation and giving you some tools to bring out some awareness about who you are as a person in terms of your personality and the environments that you thrive at and who you are. So that's sort of the first phase, and I call that putting a puzzle together. And then the second phase is the exploration phase. So once we kind of identify maybe a category of jobs, like do you tend to be somebody that wants to engage in working with other people? I mean, that's a simple question. Do you want to work with people, or do you want to work more independently? Do you want to, work more with your hands, problem solving, or more with your mind? So we pose some very basic questions to sort of sift through this, to begin to help you identify some potential careers to do some research. And my guess is most of you, or many of you, came tonight with some ideas in mind about where you might want to visit in that commons area in terms of programs. If not, start in the room where they're accepting free applications, and they'll move you into a career room where they'll do just a brief assessment and give you some suggestions to explore some of the program areas. So you don't feel like you walk in there and you don't know where to start. So they maybe can help navigate some suggestions for you. And then the third step is really that decision making and goal setting. And then we kind of look at the reality of your life circumstances in terms of, how much schooling do you want to pursue? Are there certain things that you want to avoid? Is there a certain time limit you have? We talk about affordability. Do you have to work full time and go to school part time? So that's all part of the conversation too, to make sure that we get you set up to be as successful as we can if you're going to come to school and pursue the training for a certain career. And then just identifying barriers and resources. So we help actually walk you through this whole process. Now keep in mind, this is a free service that's available to the general public, so prospective students, as well as it is for our current students that might find themselves in a program after the first semester not being what they had hoped to be. For those of you that are more visual, this is sort of what I just was talking about. We're looking at you as a person in terms of kind of filling in that circle of what are all your interests. So you can sort of do this self-assessment right now as you sit here. What would you fill in that interest circle with? What types of things do you know about yourself that you like to do? is that you have an interest in learning to do well. Because obviously there are certain things that you don't know how to do yet. That's why you come to school. That's why you come and get the training. The other piece is the values, and I think that one is oftentimes overlooked. Other than values is, how much money do I want to make? What kind of hours do I want to work? But other conversations we have with that values piece is, what type of structure do you want in that work? Do you want to work in an office? Do you mind sitting at a desk? Do you want to be more physically active? What type of supervision do you want? Are you somebody that's very independent and you just kind of want to show up, know what you're responsible for doing, and just do it? Or are you somebody that likes to have, some management, being told, what you need to do in day-to-day operation? You don't like making decisions. There's some people that really like to make their own decisions and some people that don't like to make decisions at all. And different work environments will aid to those scenarios. You don't want to be in a situation where you're responsible for making some big decisions. That is not how you're wired. So that, once again, is all part of that conversation. We use a career development theory, which if you happen to go into the application high and go into that next room, they will give you a very mini assessment on this John Holland's world of work. And this really does start identifying some traits about individuals. The realistic category are people that like real hands-on training. The investigative, if you're somebody that likes math and science and analytical problem solving. Artistic doesn't necessarily mean drawing or art. It just means that you have a creative personality and you like creative problem solving. So certainly it can mean music, writing, art, those types of things, but it also can be you're an outside the box thinker. So there are obviously certain occupations that are better to allow for that skill to be used or trait to be used than others. Social. Some people score high in this and they look at me and they say, but I'm not very social. So I always say that social doesn't necessarily mean you're a social butterfly. It means that you have a supportive personality. So you have care and concern and you want to help others. So if you're somebody that identifies with, I'm not sure what I want to do, but I just know I want an occupation where I can help others. We'll lead you in probably human services or health sciences at this college because those are the ones that give you that direct customer service and helping others. So that's where we would have you start. Enterprising is more leadership and more, if you identify with the words persuasive, leading, managing, directing, if those are buzzwords for you to go, yeah, that's me, we probably direct you in occupations that allow for that to be expressed. And then conventional are people that typically like organization and they like to follow rules and routines and things like that. I always use myself as an example. This is my number 6. We all have characteristics in all 6 of them. So if you do the more, in that room, they're just kind of going to rank you 1 through 6, have you answer some brief, quick questions. But what we focus on when we do our career development workshop or when I run counseling is we actually look at your top 3, and then we look at occupations that can kind of blend those things together. So, unsure of your career path, you can make an appointment with a career counselor. You can do that today if you'd like at E121, which is our Counseling Advisory Services office. There's somebody at the desk that can arrange that. Or what we really strongly encourage is that you sign up for one of our career development workshops, only because in terms of time sensitive, you can get through this a little bit quicker. Our calendars get filled quite quickly with the other counseling appointments that we're serving our student population. But we know that there are some people that they're working full-time or they're in school already full-time with sports activities that maybe your career workshop schedule doesn't work. So I want you to know that if you're in a position where after you look around tonight and you still feel stuck, I want to let you know that we have services available to you, and all you need to do is pick up the phone or make a call to our counseling advisory services, ask for counselor, and then I have our most recent workshop schedule here, and it takes us through, I believe, the rest of the semester. So it'll be October and November start dates. This is also available online at our website under the career counseling page. Pick one of these up, and then basically what you remember. Make sure that you review and reevaluate your plan as goals along the way. I always tell students at district orientation, you're starting a program. If you start this program, you get 3 or 4 weeks into it, and you go, oh wow, I don't know if this is what I want to do. Don't drop out of school. Just come down and meet with us, and we'll kind of help navigate a transition to get you in the right place. So it's a supportive service that we wish students would use, so we can help them get in the right place. Because we know we're going to retain students if you're in the right program and in a program that you're going to find fulfillment in, and we also know that you're going to be happier. So it's a win-win. You and us. And at the time. Anybody have any questions? Any have questions about any programs or what they're struggling with? Nothing? Okay. So if you want, we do have the financial aid session that's coming up at 4:30, but we wanted to break this in time for people that wanted to leave and join us and for questions. So if you want to pick up a career development workshop schedule, that would be the green one. And then I also have just the counseling services cards. If you want to grab one of those so you have the number available at some point you want to make a telephone call. And then I also just have a handout sort of explaining the puzzle analogy of how we help you put this together and the things that you should consider and the conversations you should have either with your spouses or your parents or your friends as you're trying to become more self-aware of what it is that's going to make you happy, what kind of environment, what types of things you'll be doing. But please don't be afraid to ask for help because that's where you're going. So that's all I got. So I assume any of you are looking for none of you.
Stay right there, okay? Thank you.
That's what we all do.
some presents for you. There you go. And got a couple items for you here. And our business card. Okay, I think we're going to get started. It is right around 4:30. So first of all, I just want to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to come to our open house today and see what our school has to offer. My name is Stacy Doran. I'm the Director of Student Financial Services here at the college. I've been with the college for a little over a dozen years. I've been in higher ed for about 20 years, mainly focusing on financial aid. We have a few items we're going to cover. Obviously, paying for college is the main the item we're going to discuss. Some of it gets to be a little bit personal. Maybe you're not going to want to ask your questions in public here. Yep. Sure. Okay. Yep. Sure. Sorry. So I just wanted you to know that I will definitely stay after this session is over, and we can talk on the side, or we can go back on down to my office if you'd prefer to talk about a more specific question that you'd like to ask in private. Happens all the time, so I will definitely stick around as long as needed, okay? All right, so I'm not sure if any of you have attended the session prior to this. There is going to be another one right after this as well, talking about picking a program, okay? So when we talk about paying for college, one of the most cost-effective things, I guess, to do would be to pick the proper program up front, so you're only taking classes that you need to complete your program, to complete the degree that you're seeking. So that's one thing to keep in mind. It's just a plug for the session that's coming up. It's a half-hour session right after this here in the same area. Again, it would help you determine what career path, what program you'd be interested in pursuing, okay? So with that, I've got a little presentation here. We're going to start out with a little financial aid humor, okay? We know that this whole paying for college thing can be a little intimidating, a little scary, a little confusing, to be honest. So we're going to try to help work through some of those things today, okay? So when we talk about paying for college, first of all, I want to kind of clarify what are we talking about? What are we paying for, okay? So there's some obvious things. Certainly the tuition and book charges, those are direct costs of attending college, pretty straightforward and obvious, right? But then there's also the room and board costs, transportation costs to get to and from campus, as well as personal expenses, personal and miscellaneous expenses, okay? So those 5 components added together are what we call the cost of attendance, or the student budget, okay? So just as an example, this is for Fox Valley Technical College for 1 semester, okay? So the first column is if a student is living at home with a parent. The next column is if a student is living off campus in an apartment, whatever the case may be, okay? So you're going to see that for 1 term, the tuition for 15 credits, it's about $150 per credit. It will vary on the type of class you're taking, but approximately $150. So $22.83 is the approximate cost for tuition for 1 semester for 15 credits. $9.80 is book charges approximately for 15 credits. So onward and onward here. So in total, a student living with parents is the $67.66 you can see up there. That's for 1 semester, all encompassing the entire cost of attendance, okay? The next column, again, is if somebody is living off campus or in an apartment, something like that. So that's what we're talking about, the costs involved. So how are we going to pay for those things? There's plenty of options here. We're going to dig into some of them a little bit more than others. One of them, certainly scholarships. We have a great foundation here. We have scholarships for new and continuing students. There's scholarships all over the place. You know, it takes a little bit of time to look for them all. There's websites that have things out there. You do want to be careful for scams. You want to make sure that you never have to pay to apply for a scholarship. You shouldn't have to be providing your social security number. So be careful of those types of things. There definitely are scams out there, so just please be aware. You can learn more about them, again, from a foundation office, but also if you have a high school student, from the guidance office. They're going to be talking about scholarships all the time. Parent affiliations, you know, sometimes either a parent employer or other agencies that parents are affiliated with will have some scholarships and things like that. Veteran education benefits. So if we have any parents in here that are a veteran, or a student that is a veteran, or the spouse of a veteran, there are education benefits available. We have a Veterans Resource Center just down the hall on the right-hand side. I'd encourage you to go down there and chat with them. There are education benefits that veteran has earned that we want to make sure that we get to them. There's education benefits to pay for tuition and books, but also some housing allowance available as well. So keep that in mind. There's AmeriCorps funding that people can basically volunteer and then earn some education dollars for down the road. So that's another benefit. We offer a payment plan here at the college where we can split the overall tuition for the term. So this is only for tuition over 3, 4, or 5 months. So that is an option too. There's savings plans that maybe some of you have already gotten into. Financial aid, obviously, we're going to dig into that a little bit more. So I'm not going to spend too much time right now. There's private loans that you can get through a bank or credit union. Parent loans, it's a PLUS loan, a parent loan for undergraduate students. We can talk about that offline if anybody has questions about that. Apprenticeship programs are great too. I mean, if a student can hook up with an employer, the employer can be helping to pay for the tuition charges and books and things. And then there's tribal grants. So the main focus of today is going to be financial aid and that whole process and everything. I wanted to show you, this is what the FAFSA looks like. This is from the Department of Education website. They just kind of revamped this over the last few weeks, months. So this is what it looks like. I bring this up because, again, just like scholarships, there can be scams with financial aid applications. So you want to go to fafsa.gov.gov. In the past, you know, students have paid $80, $90, $100 to go to a website. At the end, they do get a FAFSA completed, a financial aid application, but now they've paid for something that really should be free. FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. So it's free. There is no charge for it if you go to this website, the fafsa.gov website. Very, very important. Okay? So why do you want to complete the FAFSA? That is really the starting point for all financial aid. Okay? Without that, we really, as financial aid administrators here at the school, we would not be able to tell you what you're going to be eligible for without having this completed. That's the most important first step. That is your application for federal grants, federal loans, federal work study, as well as state grants. Okay? And that can also be used for scholarships, depending on the scholarship that you're applying for, and then in any institutional aid too, potentially. So when you complete the FAFSA, at the end of it, you're going to get a number, this magic number. It's called the Expected Family Contribution, EFC, we're going to refer to it as. That's the number that the federal government will then give to us as the school and to you as the student. You will know what that number is. That number is determined by the income and the assets of the student and the parent. If the student is under the age of 24, basically. There's some caveats to that, like all things with financial aid, it seems there's some exceptions. But for the most part, if the student is 24 or under, we're going to also be looking at the parent's income and assets as well. The family size will have an impact on the EFC, as well as the number of people in that household that are going to college. So all those things are kind of put into this calculation, this algorithm that the federal government does. And at the end, we get this EFC number. All right, so now we're gonna pull things together here, okay? So the cost of attendance, that's determined by school. So here at Fox Valley Technical College, it was one of those first slides where it was the $6,700 and some odd dollars for one term, right? Now at UW Oshkosh, UW Green Bay, another school, they're going to have a different cost of attendance. That's going to vary by school. But from that number, We then subtract the EFC, and that, again, is that number from the feds, from the Department of Ed. That number is going to follow you from whatever school you go to. That stays with you, okay? So if we subtract the EFC from the cost of attendance, we're going to get what is the estimated financial need of the family, okay? And that's what we as the financial aid administrators, we're going to try to put together a package of aid, an award of financial aid to cover that financial need, okay? So just a couple of quick examples here. So let's say on a yearly basis now, we're looking at the cost of attendance. If we pick school C, $13,000 is the cost of attendance for the whole year, let's say. The EFC, once you completed the FAFSA, the federal government says the expected family contribution, that EFC, is $8,027. So that leaves us a financial need of the $4,973. So we will be trying to put together a package of at least that, the $4,973. So between the grants, the loans, the work study, scholarships maybe, all of those different things that we could use for financial aid to cover the outstanding costs, okay? So I hope everyone has this document. This is a nice document from the Department of Education. Obviously, we're not going to go through all this today. There's a lot out here. But I would definitely encourage you to flip it open on the inside of this trifold, the middle page and the last page there. It identifies the different types of aid between the grants, loans, and work study. It's really a good reference document, okay? So grants are need-based aid, so not everyone is going to be eligible for, an example would be a Pell Grant. Not everyone will be eligible for that. It is based on the EFC, that expected family contribution. So the lower that EFC number, the more likely it is that you're going to be eligible for financial aid or for Pell Grants. So again, not everyone will be eligible for a Pell Grant. Loans. Let's see, there's two different types of loans here, subsidized and unsubsidized Stafford loans. They're both right now, the interest rate is 5.05% for anything that's dispersed after this past July. One of the nice things is, you know, there's no credit record needed, there's no cosigner needed. This is a loan through the federal government. The subsidized Stafford loan is need-based, so again, not everyone will qualify for a subsidized Stafford loan. But for the most part, the majority of people will qualify for an unsubsidized Stafford loan, okay? The difference there really is interest is accruing, it's being added on, it's being looked at right away once the money is dispersed. Whereas a subsidized loan, that interest is really not being added on right off the bat, all right? And again, that 5.05% interest rate is usually lower than what you can get on, certainly on credit cards or private loans through a bank or credit union. I also wanted to just kind of give you guys some ideas of dollar amounts that we're talking about. I should back up a little bit here. So the Pell Grant, so again, not everyone will qualify, so some people are going to get zero. The largest amount is of $6,095 is the maximum Pell Grant amount for this past year. So again, it could be nothing all the way up to the almost $6,100. Again, that will be based on financial need. Loans, you can see this little chart here. A first-year student, so let's just take an example of somebody right out of high school coming. The max that they could get is the $5,500 in total for loans. $3,500 of that could be subsidized loans, again, depending on the family need. So the other extreme would be a second-year student that is an independent student, so somebody that's over 24 years old, basically. They could get up to $10,500. So again, there's a lot of pieces involved to determine how much the eligibility would be, but just to give you some idea of dollar amounts involved, between $5,500 and $10,500 would be the norm. Let's see, work study, before we get to that. Work study is another option. Again, not everyone qualifies for that, but those that do, it really is a great option. The students here earn $10 an hour, usually between 12 and 15 hours per week. And they have a job here on campus. That usually there's a lot of flexibility involved. We know that school is the most important thing, of course, so we're flexible with hours worked and that type of thing. You can get some great experience potentially in an area of the college that pertains to your program. Like in my area, we have, I think, 3 accounting students that are work study students. So they're getting some experience working with our students that are talking about financial aid, how they're going to pay for college. It's great background, it's great experience for them, and they're making money to help pay for college expenses. So that is another thing to keep in mind. So some things to just summarize or remember here. Don't underestimate your options. Please, if you're looking at coming here, please come and see us. We would love to sit down and talk with you about all the options that are out there. There's payment plans, there's scholarships, maybe some agency funding of some kind, or again, financial aid. Never assume that you're too poor to attend college. And also on the flip side, don't assume that you make too much money to qualify for any type of financial aid. Neither of those are really true statements. I mean, there definitely are options out there. So just don't assume that it's not going to work for you. I throw a little financial aid humor in here again, but the intent there is, the FAFSA, when you fill out that financial aid application, that is a snapshot in time of your financial situation for the family, right? The student and the parents' income and assets and all of that. It's based on 2 years prior information, okay? A lot can happen in 2 years, and we know that. So when you filled out the FAFSA, it might say you have an EFC of 10,000 EFC. My little mic. But we know, somebody might have lost a job, there might have been a death in a family, a divorce, who knows what happened, right? We can take that type of thing into account. So don't hesitate, if you get an award letter from us saying this is your financial aid package, but a lot has happened since you first filled out that FAFSA. Please come and see us. We can definitely talk you through that. There's some forms maybe you'd have to fill out. We might need some additional documentation from you, but this happens all the time, and we can work with those families and make sure that we get the most appropriate package that fits the family's financial situation, okay? And lastly, tomorrow, if you're not busy tomorrow night, we're having an event here on campus. It's called College Goal Wisconsin. It's going to be located just down the hall in our computer lab, where we have pretty much everyone on my team and several other volunteers that will help you complete the FAFSA from beginning to end. So you could leave here potentially tomorrow having the FAFSA done for this next year. It happens every year. We are a site. There are 40 other sites throughout the state. They're usually on Mondays and Wednesdays in October and November. Okay. And another thing I should mention, the FAFSA does need to be completed every year. It opens up on October 1st every year, but it does have to be done every single year. So please keep that in mind as well. So a ton to cover. I know I just threw a whole bunch of stuff at you guys. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Or again, I'd gladly stay on the side and talk if needed. Any questions? All right, thank you. Do you want to come up? We have some chairs over here. There's a couple over here. Okay, it's 5 o'clock, so we're going to get started. Welcome. My name is Kathy DeRoche, and I'm a counselor here at the college, and I've been with the college for about 25 years, so I have quite a bit of experience working with prospective students as well as current students navigating, choosing a career and a program at the college. So what I would like to know is, just to get started, is how many of you in the room have an idea but you're not sure? So you have some ideas that you're exploring but you're not 100% sure. Can I have a hand? Okay. How many of you are sitting out there right now saying, I really have absolutely no idea? Okay. So regardless, if you have some idea and you just kind of need some help navigating those things, or you have absolutely no idea, this process can benefit you in helping you hopefully make some decisions. This process that we use at Fox Valley Technical College works with, we use it with high school seniors, juniors, as well as people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, returning adults. The difference is we have more information about ourselves the older we get and the more life experiences we have. So for those of you that are younger and navigating the career world for the first time, it does create some stress, and sometimes you feel like you're overwhelmed. So I want you to sort of forgive yourself for not knowing, and just know that it's a process. It's not automatically, we're going to figure this out. I'm going to start by showing you some common myths about choosing a career. And the first one is choosing a career is simple. I think we just need to put that out there because it can be a difficult process because there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of information, particularly for the young people in the audience. There's a lot of information you don't know about the world of work to be making this decision. So we know that the more information that you can generate about yourself and the more knowledge you have about the world of work, the better and easier the decision is going to be for you. So that's really what our process is about when helping people navigate this. Second myth, a career counselor, I think I'd like to add to that, a career counselor or a career test can tell you what to do. Oftentimes people are hoping to defer this decision to someone else or something else, like, can I just take a test that will tell me what to do? My guess is many of you sitting out there have already either done something in high school or you've tried some stuff online. Possibly you even did our quick little assessment in the applications room before you came here. It gives you some information, but it doesn't collect enough information about you to give you the answer. Typically those are interest surveys, so they survey your interest, and we're going to talk about there's really more to the puzzle than just your interest. So you don't need to defer that decision. We hope to empower you by giving you some information and helping you navigate this so you can make the decision yourself. Number 3, I can't make a living from a hobby. Maybe, maybe not, but why we have that up there is oftentimes that's how we begin to collect some information about what maybe your interests are, particularly if you don't have a lot of work experience. Like, what are the things that you enjoy doing? What kind of environments are you happiest in? What types of things come easy for you in terms of skill set? So oftentimes we'll use hobbies to begin kind of collecting some information about who you are as a person and the things you tend to gravitate towards. Number 4, I should choose a career from the best careers list. Oftentimes, those are usually the hot jobs, the jobs that are in highest demand. And certainly everybody, particularly when they're thinking about investing money and going to school, they want to make sure that when I get out of this training, I want to have a job at the end. So certainly we want to look at job availability and that research that's out there, as well as there's also lists out there, the top 10 highest paying jobs for new college graduates. So a lot of times students will navigate towards that and go, oh, you know, maybe I want to pick one of these top 10 jobs. That information isn't bad in learning information about wages and job outlook, but know that just because a job is in high demand and it pays a lot of money doesn't mean it's going to be a right fit for you. So there's really more work that needs to be done in addition to that. So You know, I'm not going to discourage you from looking at those lists. The Department of Labor puts them out yearly. There's usually not a whole lot of change in them, but know that that's not the best way to select a job because it may not fit who you are. Okay, you may not have a job on that top 10 list. And then making a lot of money will make me happy. We all recognize that money is the main reason why many of us work. But what that amount is, I mean, my first question to all of you is, what's a lot of money? Okay, you don't have to answer that, but my thought is, if I surveyed you, all of you would probably have a different indicator of what a lot is or what enough is. So we have a conversation about, like, what kind of lifestyle are you targeting? What kinds of, besides your basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter, what are the other things that you want out of your life? Where do you want to live, in a rural area or an urban area? So we have those real life discussions about what is that going to look like to determine what type of wage it is you're trying to target. And then we look at, you know, what's a starting salary versus opportunities for advancement in occupations. We look at ladders of advancement, meaning if I were to acquire additional education after I get this initial degree, what are the opportunities? So we look at it more of as a process instead of just like an end, like, okay, this is what this is going to pay. And if you look at our graduate placement statistics, if any of you have gone on our website and seen that information, and there's probably some information at some of these tables, many of our programs, the graduate placement statistics, there's a huge range from starting salaries of new graduates. And there can be a lot of factors that play into that. Some, it has to do with geography. We have some students that move out of the area to maybe more urban communities, which will allow for them to maybe have a higher wage. We have some students that come to us as older adults that have some solid work experience in a field, but now they're adding on the degree. So in addition to that experience and that degree, that could aid to a higher income, versus somebody coming out right out of high school and, you know, with minimal work experience, getting that degree and getting an entry-level job. So, you know, we have a lot of conversations about what that looks like because we know that's important to people. How much money I'm going to make, what the job opportunities are, what that outlook is. But we want to have that conversation with you in terms of what it is that you're looking for and how can we best help you navigate the career choices for that. Once I choose a career, I'll be stuck in it forever. The latest statistics, I looked them up today. The average high school graduate today will have an average of 5 to 7 careers after high school and 10 to 15 jobs. So changing of careers is going to be probably more common than it was of your parents' generation or your grandparents' generation. So being aware of that, knowing that our job is not necessarily to help you look at what are you going to be doing for the next 50 years. It's more of looking at, particularly with the technical college education, when there's a less time investment, what is it that's going to be your springboard for potential careers throughout your career life. So we really want to kind of get you in sort of the right zone and then help you navigate throughout that. Career planning is a lifelong process. It's not necessarily a one and done. There's some exceptions to that. Obviously, people that pursue a significant level of education to pursue a career typically stay in that career. You know, if somebody's going to decide they want to be an orthopedic surgeon, they're not going to invest in, you know, 12 years of school and student loans and then decide, you know, after 10 years they're going to switch careers. They might, but usually with the more investment, the less career change that you're going to see. If I change careers, my skills will go to waste. We talk a lot about transferable skills and what types of skills can benefit you in one occupation that could transfer into other levels and other actual careers. If my best friend is happy in a particular field, I will be too. I guess what I address there is oftentimes when we're struggling with a decision, we seek out other people's advice. So we ask our friends, or we see what our friends are doing, or we ask our parents or our teachers. And if you ask enough people, somebody's eventually going to tell you, well, I think you should do this. And if we're really unsure that or worried that we're going to make the wrong choice, we might just defer our decision making to someone else. And that's not necessarily the best process to go. Sometimes
I'm a parent, so I'll say I feel like I know my kids pretty well, and I try to help them navigate that. Plus, I have over 25 years as a career counselor, so I think they should just let me tell them what to do, but that hasn't worked out for me, just saying. So we can, we can help people around us, whether it be our spouse or our children or our best friends, in giving information, but we shouldn't defer decision making to them. And then hopefully, based on what I've already been saying, you can understand that things don't just necessarily fall into place. I'll say it again, career planning should be a lifelong process. What's going to make you happy at 25 isn't necessarily going to make you happy at 50. And it might be you might decide you want more challenge, more responsibility. Right now you might not feel real confident, so you might not want to choose something that has a lot of responsibility or leadership. But as you navigate through life, you might find, wow, I can really become an expert at this, and I think I could manage people or lead people. So we'll see in the next slide what I talk about. A lot of making good career decisions is about just being aware of who we are in that moment, and then knowing when to navigate, knowing when to switch jobs or apply for a different job or get additional training. So it really is a lifelong process, and really for those of you that might not be career changers but coming right out of high school, just sort of look at this as this is my first decision, and I'll probably be making multiple decisions as the future progresses in terms of a career. And then finally, there's very little I can do to learn about an occupation by doing it, particularly with our hands-on learners. So if you're sitting out there, a real hands-on learner, sometimes it's real difficult when somebody shoves information at you and said, well, just read about these jobs, because you're looking at it and you're going, I don't know what they do. So I really encourage, we as a staff really encourage students to meet with our faculty, which is why Open House is great, because all of our faculty are present. Have conversations about it, do the tours of the work areas, as well as get out into the work environment and ask to do job shadows. And we talk about how you can do that as part of our career planning process. What are the things that you're most interested in? Would it benefit you to be able to get out there and either, there's certain things that you can job shadow that you can see when people are doing things. Somebody that's an accountant, there's really not much to job shadow, but certainly with that, an informational interview and sitting down with somebody at not only a small business, but maybe at an accounting office. When we look at one career, there's multiple work environments that person could fit in with. So we do a lot of encouragement in helping students see those different occupations. So this is really how we want you to think of making a career decision. So the first is that self-assessment. We call it a self-assessment. We do give you some paper pencil inventories, but like I said earlier, the test can't give you the answer. And I say if there was a test that told everybody what to do, we would all take that, we would do what it said, and we would live happily ever after. And I would be unemployed, because there would be no purpose for somebody to sit down with you to help you, navigate and try to understand, what makes you tick. And an example that I often use is think of it being a puzzle, and my job as a career counselor and parents and significant others that are helping somebody navigate it, you can be a listening board to help them navigate and getting those puzzle pieces together. But the individual that's trying to make the decision really is the one that needs to create the puzzle pieces in terms of what are the things that I'm interested in? And there may be multiple things on that puzzle piece. What are the skills that I believe come easy to me or that I do well, or the skills that I want to learn to do better? And then, what are my values? What's important to me, and how does that relate to the world of work? And then just in terms of what has your life experience brought you and taught you about yourself. So we also talk about personality traits. There's some people that are really flexible, and there's some people that are real scheduled. And that characteristic can, make a huge difference in different work environments. There's, there oftentimes is a balance where sometimes you have to be scheduled and sometimes you have to be flexible. But there are some, depending on the occupation, that might fall further down the line on one continuum than the other. So we talk a lot about, who you are. So that's where you get that self-awareness. And I don't think anybody would disagree with me that people that are not in high school, that you would say that at your age now, you know more than you knew when you were 17 or 18 about yourself, right? You knew more about your likes and dislikes, what things you did well, what things are important to you. So that's also why we say career planning is sort of a journey and it's a process. So we want to take the individual where they're at this point in time with the information that they have to make the decision. Second phase is then that research. So we hope in that first phase that we're able to sort of put a puzzle together so we sort of have a picture of like what things are important to you and what your personality traits stand out and those types of things and what's important to you in terms of your values. And then we help you navigate some job shadows or career exploration so you can have a couple to compare and contrast. It's always helpful to just say, okay, I think this is what I want to do, but I'd like to compare and contrast it to some other things, because sometimes if we can eliminate by looking at one thing and we see some other things and we eliminate that, that one tends to be a little bit stronger for us. And then decision making has a whole lot of components to it. You know, we look at your circumstances. Are you somebody that works full-time that needs to go to school part-time? Are you somebody that can go to school full-time without working? You know, are you self-supporting or are you living at home with parents? That all kind of leads into that financial discussion about how much time do I have to do this? How can I make this as affordable as possible? So that all plays into trying to make the best scenario available to you to achieve the goal of getting some higher education, to achieve a career that you're looking for. So know that that career counseling process is not just about, you know, sitting down and taking a test and going, okay, here's what you should do. And it's not just about saying, you know, here's some websites, here's some suggestions for job shadows, but it really is about looking at the whole person and your whole situation. Oftentimes, the conversation is people know what they want to do, but they're fearful that they might fail. So they resort to saying, I don't know what I want to do. Because as soon as we say what we want to do, we have to embrace it and we have to do it. So fear sometimes holds us back from making a decision too. Any questions or comments about this? Okay. Why am I? So this is a visual of pretty much that outline for the most part. We look at, so if you're sitting there as someone here today trying to figure out, like, what do I want to do? We start with filling in that circle of interest. What are the things that you like to do? Sometimes I start with people, they look at me and they say, I don't know. I'll say, well, tell me what you don't like to do, because we can eliminate, through processes of elimination, we can come up with some things. And that might be helpful too as you look at our program guide, is go through it and start with the programs that you know you have zero interest in doing, and then look at what's left. And that might be what your starting place is to start doing some career exploration. I mean, it's just based on your intuition and your awareness of yourself, you might just be able to eliminate all but 3 areas, and then we start with that. Skills, think about what things come easy to you, what things you struggle with. Oftentimes people will say, I don't have any skills, that's why I'm here. But we all come with a set of aptitudes, and there are certain things that come easy for us, certain things that are more of a struggle. Just because something is difficult doesn't mean you can't overcome that. But we talk about that and we have that conversation. And then I think one of the biggest conversations I have with people is, you know, what's important to you? What do you know, we spend a lot of our time working, so what do you want to get from that besides a paycheck? Okay, so that's the conversation that I really, you know, try to lead people down to try to surface what does that look like. And for some, it's the hours that they work. For others, it's a sense of achievement. For some, it might be the ability to work alone and not have to deal with people. You know, might be the leadership or a lot of responsibility. Some it may be minimal responsibility. So we talk a lot about that. And then the life circumstances is just, once again, just sort of getting a temperature on what your story is at this point in time and how we can best help you navigate a decision that's going to work best for your situation. And that's when we kind of start talking about educational opportunities and how that's going to fit for you. How many of you happen to start in E130? Did any of you start in E130 and take one of the, where it says apply for none of you? Well, part of it is when you fill out the application, you have to pick a program. But if you go in there undecided, they'll walk you through to the other side of E130. And they are doing a mini assessment, and I've already told you my thoughts on an assessment, but the mini assessment can sort of introduce you to how we help you in career counseling, sort of categorize your interests. So we use this theory, and I'm just going to walk you through the 6 categories. Realistic is more hands-on learning. So people that say, you know, I want to do a job where I'm doing something in terms of physical performance. I don't want to sit. I want to use my hands more than I want to use my mind for the most part. I want to solve things by doing. Investigative typically taps into those people that like to problem solve and analytically problem solve, and math, science tend to be their go-tos. Doesn't necessarily mean always, but typically. Artistic doesn't mean that you're a good drawer. It means, it could mean that. It could be like music, art, writing, drawing. But people that identify with artistic often are very creative. So if you identify as someone that's creative, it can be creative problem solver, creator idea person. You might gravitate towards occupations that allow for you to express that. Social doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, you're social butterfly, because sometimes I get students that will gravitate and score high in that category, but it really means you typically have a supportive personality, meaning you're somebody that likes to help others and care for others or reach out to others. So we'd look at occupations that fit there. The enterprising is more, if the words leading, persuading, directing, managing, if those words kind of pop out at you as, yeah, that's kind of, I'm looking for an occupation that allows me to do that, we talk about what those would be. And then conventional are people that like a lot of routine and structure. So usually like conventional and artistic are oftentimes opposites. So if you're somebody that's more flexible and open and kind of go with the flow, you're probably a little, maybe have more traits there. Conventional, you'll be more structured and disciplined with traits. We all have characteristics in all 6 of those, but what our job is to help you navigate learning about those and ranking yourself 1 through 6. What's most like you and what's least like you. And then we help match jobs that kind of allow for you to express those characteristics. So if you have a chance and you decide, I mean, I would recommend you do that anyhow, because you have an opportunity then to go in and fill out a profile. And then if you attend one of our career development workshops or work with a career counselor, you can still get that $30 application fee waived by December, if you do it by December 14th. So, you know, if you leave here today saying, I'm not going to put up an application because I just don't know what to apply for, know that you can still go into that room and let them know you're undecided, and they'll have you put up a student profile. And then I believe we'll even reach out to you and say, you know, here's our career workshops, you attended open house. If, you know, you complete career counseling process by December 14th, we'll waive that $30. So I'm not sure if you got that information or not, but just know that. So this is, whoops, I forgot I had this time. Up at the table, there's a handout of our rest of our semester's career workshops. We try to offer them at flexible times. We also, this semester, are trying something new. It's called Collaborate, where you can attend the workshop from home. It's an online version of the workshop, but you can't do it whenever you want. You actually have to do it at the scheduled times, but you can log on live. So that's there. We offer them each semester. We put up usually 3 or 4 a month throughout the summer. So we strongly encourage that environment, but we also do one-on-one career planning. So if you're somebody you're working and your days and nights are full, and maybe you can just get away for a couple 1-hour appointments, know that you can stop by Counseling and Advising office tonight and you can schedule that appointment if you want to connect that way. Okay. Why am I not? So just, I guess part of it is once again emphasizing the fact that this is a process. It's not a one and done, and We know that students that have a clearer picture of what they want to do when they start school and what that's going to look like along the way and the possible options are more likely to retain. Both at the 2-year and the 4-year level, students, one of the reasons students will not complete is because they didn't connect to that career goal, or they didn't see what that vision could provide. So I really, really encourage you to, if you're in that group that raised your hand that says I really have no idea, I really recommend the workshop, but the one-on-one would be great too. If you were in that group that said I kind of have an idea, I'm not 100% sure, but I have some idea, certainly go through E130 and talk to, we have career counselors in that room right now that'll kind of talk you through what you're thinking and give you some suggestions for checking out program areas in the Commons. So we're all here to help and support you, but I always say we can't help you if you don't ask for help. So know that it's a free service to the general public, and if you come in, we'll help listen to your story and help you navigate, your next steps. Does anybody have any questions? We have a financial aid presentation starting in about 4 minutes, so I don't know if any of you want to stay for that or if you're going to move on to something else. But I have some information that I provided in the PowerPoint also up here, as well as cards for the Counseling and Advising Office, if you'd like to pick that up. Okay? Thanks all for coming. Thanks.
Okay, everybody have one of these? Do you need one? Okay. There you go. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your day to come to the open house here at Fox Valley Tech. Are you good? Okay. All right. Yeah, my voice doesn't carry all that great. So, I'm Stacy Doran. I'm the Director of Student Financial Services here at the college. So again, thank you for coming. We have lots to cover. I do want to let you know that I'll stick around as long as necessary to have kind of on the side conversations or things like that if need be. Some of this stuff is, you know, a little personal. Maybe you don't want to talk about certain situations. It's finances and paying for college and all that. So I certainly understand if you don't want to ask your question in public here. We can take as much time as necessary, do that all the time on the side, okay? So, a few things here. Not sure if you guys have attended the prior session, the career choosing session. There's another one right after this too. So one of the most important things I think in considering how you're going to pay for college is to first pick the right program, the right classes within that program. That's one way to save some money, is to make sure that you're taking the right classes, that you're actually aligned with the right program of study, the right career path for yourself. So if you haven't attended that session that just got over with, there will be another one right after this. So I encourage you to stick around for that. If you do already know the program of study, your career path, and you have not applied yet, you can do that for free today, and they'll help you down in E130 to get that done. Again, there's a $30 fee, but today it will be waived. Again, if you don't know the program, attend the session after this, or in E130, there's also a group of people that can help walk you through some of that, okay? So with that, we're gonna start out with a little bit of financial aid humor here. We always like to make that happen. I know it's a confusing thing, kind of a nerve-wracking thing. You know, how much is it gonna cost? How are we gonna pay for these costs, right? That's what we're trying to talk about today a little bit, all right? So the main costs of attending college, tuition and books, pretty obvious, right? Those are direct costs of attending college. But then there's also other things to consider, like room and board, transportation expenses, and personal expenses. That all really makes up the budget or the cost of attending college. So just some examples here. For Fox Valley Technical College, for this year, this fall and this spring, this is an example of what a budget or a cost of attending would be. Again, this is for one term. So a student taking 15 credits, it's approximately $150 per credit. Now some classes are more than that, certainly our aviation programs, but other programs are about $150 per credit. So if you follow it down the line here, tuition, books for about 15 credits is about $1,000, right? The room and board really is what changes, whether a student is living with their parent or if they're living on or off campus in housing. We have Tech Village across the street, or if they're living in an apartment on their own with some roommates or whatever the case may be. That really is where the difference is, the room and board amount. Transportation expenses for a term, approximately $900, and personal expenses, approximately $1,000. That's how we get to that total, okay, for one term. And we're going to go through some examples in a little bit. So those were the costs involved. Now if we talk about how are we going to pay for those costs. So scholarships, always, that is at the top of the list. There's a lot of scholarships out there. Our foundation offers scholarships to new students as well as continuing students. So that is definitely the first place to go. There are, if you're in high school, there's guidance offices that are going to have a lot of information about scholarships as well. I'd encourage you to go down that route too. Parents might be affiliated with organizations or clubs or other things that might offer scholarships or some funding for students. Veterans. So if we have any, a veteran, the spouse of a veteran, the child of a veteran here today, I definitely encourage you to go to our Veterans Resource Center. There's funding for tuition and books and even housing allowances, depending on the type of chapter of benefit that the veteran would qualify for. So we have a great resource center here. Definitely, if you are a veteran, get down to that area. AmeriCorps is some funding for school that a person would earn over time to then use for education benefits. We offer a payment plan here where we can split the overall charges over 3, 4, or 5 months. Savings plans, hopefully some of you have saved up a little bit through a 529 plan or some other methods, but that is also an option for paying for college. Financial aid, we're going to spend the most of the time talking about that, so we'll come back to that in a little bit. There's private loans also through a credit union or a bank. Parent loans, so a parent loan for an undergraduate student. So if the student is a dependent student, so somebody, in general, somebody under the age of 24, the parent could get an additional loan to help pay for college. Now that loan would be in the parent's name. Other educational loans would be under the student's name, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit too. Apprenticeship is a great program. That's basically, well, you hook up with an employer, you're working, and they're helping you go through school as well. So that's a good funding option. And then there's tribal grants as well. So like I said, the bulk of the time today is going to be about financial aid. This is a little snapshot of what the new FAFSA page looks like. So the FAFSA, hopefully everyone has at least heard of that before. It's the free application for federal student aid. It is an application through the Department of Education. So you're going to a federal website here to complete this application. It's FAFSA.gov, G-O-V. It's free. The first F is free, and I really try to drive that home because each year we seem to have maybe 5 to 10 students that come to us and say, hey, I just spent $100 to get the FAFSA done. Did you get it yet? And what happens is they'll go to some other websites, not this one. They'll complete a FAFSA, they'll complete the application, it'll go out to the Department of Ed. We will ultimately get a FAFSA from that student, but now they've just paid $100 for something that they should not have to pay for. Okay, it is free. So be careful of scams out there because they are out there. So this is where you want to go. That's what it should look like, FAFSA.gov. So why complete the FAFSA? What's the point of doing all that? Well, it is your application for federal grants, like the Pell Grant, federal loans, like a Stafford loan, and work study. Also, the state of Wisconsin requires a FAFSA for the Wisconsin grant. Okay, so those are the 4 main things that we would be looking at: grants, loans, and work study. It can also be used for certain scholarships or institutional aid. That may also be looking at the FAFSA. The FAFSA for the, I can't even believe I'm saying it, for the 1920 year just became available yesterday. So as of yesterday, you can complete the FAFSA for this next coming year. And it is based on 2 years prior tax information. Okay, so if we're completing the 1920 FAFSA, we're looking at tax information from the 2017 year. Okay, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so once you do the FAFSA, again, if you're a dependent student, so under the age of 24 for most cases, you're considered a dependent student, and then we would need the income and asset information for both the parent and the student. Also, the family size is involved in this calculation, and the number of people in that household that are actually going to college, that is also utilized in that calculation that the federal government does to end up providing that expected family contribution. The EFC is what it's called. Okay? So we're going to bring this all together now. Okay, first we talked about the cost of attendance, all the costs involved, those 5 components of attending college, those costs. Now, that will vary by school. You know, what I showed you before was for us. UW Oshkosh is going to have something different. UW Green Bay is going to have something different. That will vary by school. But that EFC is provided by the feds, by the Federal Department of Education. That comes from your FAFSA. That will stick with you no matter what school you're going to. That EFC is going to be yours. All right? So we take the cost of attending school minus that EFC, and that gives us the financial need of the family. What kind of a financial aid package can we, as a financial aid administrators, put together to meet that financial need with grants and loans and work study and scholarships? That's really ultimately what we're going to be trying to do. Okay? So here's just an example. So if we look at School C, so this is on a yearly basis, $13,000 for the whole thing for tuition, books, room and board, personal, transportation, all those costs together, $13,000. And just took a fictitious person here. Their EFC provided from the Department of Ed is the $8,027. So the financial need left is $4,973. Okay, so that's what we would be looking at for need-based aid, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. That's the package we would try to put together to cover those costs. Okay. All right. So before we get into the loan piece, I just wanted to refer to this document. Obviously, we're not going to read through this right now, but it is a good reference for you. Particularly, there's a chart on the inside, the second and kind of third page here. It lays out the different types of funding, the grants, loans, work study, and all of that, and kind of gives you an idea of dollar amounts and things. I did want to mention that the Pell Grant, just to give you an idea of dollars, the Pell Grant is based on the EFC, so it's based on the financial need of the family. The lower the number, the more financially needy the family is, right? So it will also vary depending on the credit status. Like if you're a full-time student, a part-time student, that dollar amount can change. But just to give you an idea, if a family has a very low income, a zero EFC, they could be eligible for up to almost $6,100 for the whole year. Okay, so it can go from zero to almost $6,100 depending on the need of the family. That's the Pell Grant. The loans, I'm going to come back to this screen in just a second, but the loans will depend, there's some variation here too. So if you're a first-year student, so let's take somebody right out of high school, their first year of college, they're a dependent student, they're under the age of 24, for the whole year, they could get $5,500, okay, for the whole first year. Compare that to $10,500 if it's somebody in their second year of study and they're an independent student, so somebody over the age of 24, okay? So I just want you to know that those loan maximums do vary depending on your status, dependent or independent student, and the number of years of study that you've got, okay? So again, just to kind of give you some idea there. So to talk a little bit more about loans in general, there's two types of Stafford loans. One is a subsidized and then an unsubsidized Stafford loan. Right now, the interest rate is 5.05% for both of them. Subsidized are more advantageous to you. Not everyone will qualify for that. It is also a need-based program. But there, the interest is handled differently, okay? There's a grace period involved. The interest is not accruing all the way from the point of disbursement. Whereas an unsubsidized loan, the interest will be accruing from the point of disbursement, okay? And again, there's more good information in here for you too. The other advantage really is that usually that 5.05% is going to be a better interest rate. There's no credit check involved. There's no cosigner needed for this type of thing, okay? All right. I also wanted to talk real quick about work study, kind of drive this point home a little bit. I think it's an absolutely phenomenal program. We have 4 work study students in my department right now. So basically, again, it is not everyone is going to qualify for work study, but those that do, they earn $10 an hour, at least $10 an hour, some a little bit more. They get a paycheck every other week, just like everyone else. They can get a job here on campus in hopefully in an area that pertains to their program. Like I've got 3 accounting students in my department in the financial aid area. So it's good experience for them. They're earning some money. It's here on campus, so it's more flexible for them. And we know that school comes first, so we're flexible with the hours. You know, if they've got something major going on, they got a group project, you know, my department and pretty much everyone here at the school, we would be flexible to allow for those types of things. So I love that program. I think it's great. So other things to remember, don't underestimate your options. There are scholarships. There's a payment plan. There could be some other agency funding. There could be some clubs, churches, who knows. There's lots of things out there to look into, and several of those things adding up really can add up to quite a bit. In addition to that, there is financial aid, right? So with that financial aid piece, don't think you're too poor to come to school because there is stuff out there for you. But on the flip side, don't think you're too rich to qualify for any type of funding. Almost always there's going to be some type of funding available, whether it's a loan, whether it's work study, whatever the case may be. Okay? And then hopefully, oh, this one, another little financial aid humor. So like I said before, when you're completing the FAFSA, it's based on 2017 tax information, right, for this next coming year, 2017 tax information. So a lot could have happened between that time to now, right? So could be a death in the family, could be a divorce, could be who knows what has all happened, right? So we can take that into account, and we would, there's a form you'd have to fill out. There's additional documentation we'd probably have to get from you. But we can take a more updated, clearer version of your financial situation compared to 2017. That's not always the case, obviously. There needs to be this extenuating circumstance situation, but it does happen. We have folks come in all the time where we can kind of take a fresh look at really what's going on. So please keep that in mind as well. So I wanted to drive this home as well. Hopefully everybody got this sheet. I know, you're here today, you probably have plans for tomorrow, but we do have an event here tomorrow where we will help you from beginning to end to get the FAFSA done. That's what this event is for. It's called College Goal Wisconsin. Happens to be just down the hall here tomorrow from 6 to 8. There are many other sites on the back of this form right here. There's sites throughout the state. This is the only one we're holding here in Appleton, but there's others, I think, in Green Bay. There's others all around. So if you want to make one of those events, there's going to be a scholarship that's chosen, a scholarship winner at each of the events. So if you can make it, that would be awesome. We'd love to see you and help you get it done. Otherwise, we are open from 8 to 6 Monday through Thursday and 8 to 4 on Fridays. We help people do the FAFSA all day, every day. So, come on in, give us a call, send us an email if you have questions, if you're trying to do it at home. Or like I said, we will help you from beginning to end get it done. So with that, any general questions? It's a lot to go through in 19 minutes. Yes?
The work study program you're saying you have to be eligible for it based on income, and then you make $10 an hour. That's the rate right now. You're still
Yep.
getting a paycheck.
Yes, you're getting a paycheck. Yep. So they're earning it as they work the hours.
Would you be able to explain the AmeriCorps program a little bit too?
I don't know a ton about the AmeriCorps program. I just know that people, there's work that they can do, across the nation, right? They're earning money that then can be used. They basically submit a request then to have the college communicate with AmeriCorps to get that funding. Okay, so it's like they've earned it, and now they're going to use it on the back end to pay for their college. So they're not getting a paycheck while they're doing this AmeriCorps work that they're doing. It's kind of sitting there in a bucket that they're earning, and then they do a request afterwards, and that's what pays the college. There's an AmeriCorps website that I'd encourage you to take a look at. Yeah, we have maybe 4 or 5 students each semester that end up using AmeriCorps fund. I mean, it's not a huge thing, but for them, it's been awesome. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
How much is tuition go up each year?
Around 2%, I would say, somewhere in that range, a little more, a little less. Probably a little less, I think, the last couple of semesters, or last couple of years. It's really set by the Wisconsin Technical College system. So really all the Wisconsin Technical College schools, like NWTC, Fox Valley Tech, Indian Head, all of them were basically all governed the same through the same system. So the tuition is really the same across the board. Any other questions? Okay, otherwise, like I said, I think at 6 o'clock here, Kathy is going to be doing another presentation on helping you determine the right program path or the right career. So if you have any questions on what career to go into, that would be a great session to attend. Otherwise, if you know the program, go down to E130 and you can apply today and have that fee waived. Thank you.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock, so I'm going to get started. Introducing myself, I am Kathy DeRoche, and it's getting a little rowdier here as the night progresses. My name is Kathy DeRoche, and I work in the Counseling and Advising Office here at Fox Valley Technical College, and my primary role is that of a career counselor. So I've been here for over 25 years, and my primary role has been to help prospective students as well as current students navigate their career plan. So tonight, in this next half hour, I'm going to give you some information about what's beneficial in making some good career decisions, and then also really marketing our services from that office. It's free to the general public. Whether you're a high school junior or senior or an adult trying to transition into a different career, our role is to help support you and determine, help you determine what would be the best decision to make given your situation. So I'm going to start tonight with just going over some myths about career decision making, and with those myths, I'm going to kind of give you some information about why they're myths and how you can navigate this according to your situation. But before I get started, how many of you that are here because you're thinking about furthering your education, how many of you have some idea, but you have a couple ideas and you're not sure which one? Like you just have a couple ideas you're thinking about? Okay, how many of you feel like you have absolutely no idea? Like you look at this like a deer in headlights and you go, I don't even know where to start. Okay, so we have a few of those. Okay, so regardless of whether you're somebody that maybe has a couple options you're weighing on, or somebody that just feels like, I am just so overwhelmed, there's so much out there, I don't know what to pick, the process will benefit you. The process benefits you whether you're 17, 18-year-old still in high school, or whether you're a career changer in middle adulthood. So let's get started and talk about some of these things. So the first myth is that choosing a career is simple, and I think for those of you that are feeling a little bit overwhelmed, and it feels like, I always sense that when young people come in and meet with me one-on-one, there's a level of stress with some of them because they feel like everybody in their high school senior graduating class knows what they're going to do but themselves. And that's a myth, because even those that are saying they know exactly what they're going to do, research will say that at least half of them will change their mind, okay? So it is a difficult decision to navigate. However, it doesn't have to be so difficult, partly if you just like maybe take some of that pressure off yourself, and know that you're not looking for a needle in a haystack. There's no like just one perfect job for everyone. There could be multiple careers that could be a good fit for you. So some of you that have a couple careers in mind that you're thinking, it's possible that either one of them will work out well for you. They'll look different, but it doesn't mean that both of them couldn't be a good fit. So that's kind of what we're going to talk you through in terms of how do you determine what is going to be a good fit. Myth number 2, a career counselor can tell me what career to pick. I like to kind of revise that and say a career counselor or a career inventory can tell you what to choose. How many of you have already taken an interest assessment either in high school or online? Okay. Have you found it beneficial in any way or form? Some yes, some no. Maybe some just kind of giving you some ideas for exploration. Really what you need to know about paper pencil assessments or online assessments is they assess your interest, and being satisfied in a career has more to do with than just liking it. You want to be good at it, you want to be proficient at it, and you want it to meet your values, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So if you want to defer this decision to someone else, somebody can make it for you. You can give the power to an interest inventory, or you can give the power to me, or you can give it to a significant other or your parents. But ultimately, you're the one that has to live with the decision, so we really, really encourage that decision be yours and empower you to be able to make the decision that feels right for you. I can't make a living from a hobby. One of the reasons that's up there is partly because a lot of young people haven't had a lot of work experience, and if you haven't experienced the world of work, it's real hard to determine, is this something that I'd like, or I don't know. How will I know if I like it until I'm able to do it? So one of the things that we look at in trying to figure out some interest areas and skills is to get a sense of, as a young person, what types of things have you gravitated towards in terms of hobbies? What is it that you like about those hobbies? What skills might be part of those hobbies? So part of the process is really getting you to be self-aware of the things that you've enjoyed in life up to this point and how they might relate to the world of work. So we have a little conversation about that. Myth number 5, I should choose a career from the best careers list. I don't know if any of you have found those. You can Google them. It's pretty easy. There's the Department of Labor, Workforce Development posts those usually annually. And usually there's a list that say the top 10 highest demand occupations, which isn't a bad thing to look at because I think everybody wants to be confident that if they're going to pursue education and training, that once they graduate, there's going to be a job available. And looking at high demand jobs, that certainly increases your probability of having a job. And then there's also usually a best top 10 list of highest paying occupations. And everybody wants to make money. So looking at, well, I don't know what I want to do, so what careers make the most money? The problem with looking at lists like that, though, is they don't tap into what you like to do and what you potentially could be good at. So I look at some of those lists, and I look at them, and there's nothing on the list that even appeals to me. But do the salaries appeal to me? Do the fact that there's a lot of jobs out there appeal to me? Absolutely. But that's really only a couple of the puzzle pieces. We also have to take into consideration, you know, like I said, your skills, your interests, and your values. And know that there's many, many occupations off that top 10 list that also have good salaries and good employment opportunities. And then finally, making a lot of money will make me happy. There's a lot of people out there that are making a lot of money that are very unhappy in their daily lives going to work day in and day out. Certainly, money provides a level of satisfaction to some degree, but over long-term research will say that that's not how we should focus on making the best career decision. It definitely is part of your puzzle. The other thing I always mention here is if I surveyed all of you to define for me what a lot of money is, I'm fairly confident there would be a significant range of what people would indicate is a lot of money. And that has a lot to do with what you want out of your life beyond the basic supportive needs. Like everybody needs the basic needs of food, clothing, shelter, and maybe some money and savings and do some fun things. But what those fun things are looks very different from person to person. Also, geographically, do you want to live in a rural community or an urban community? All those things play a part in putting your puzzle together about what occupations would be a best fit for you. Myth 6, once I choose a career, I'll be stuck in it forever. I'm going to throw some more statistics out to you. The latest statistic is that people that are graduating from high school now will have on average 5 to 7 careers in their lifetime. So if you have a parent or grandparents that have worked at their job their entire life, 40 years, 50 years, that's really not what the future is dictating is going to be happening. And I'm talking about careers, really doing something completely different or a different job title. And the statistic on jobs is 10 to 15 different jobs in a lifetime. So different jobs within a career field, actually different career fields. So knowing that we look at, in the process, especially with the technical college education, because it's not as significant of as a time investment and a financial investment as if, for example, you were wanting to be an orthopedic surgeon or a cardiologist. Obviously, people that pursue those types of careers, there's usually a decade or more of investment in time and significant loan debt to get there. They often are professionals that would probably defy the odds of that, 5 to 7 careers. Most of them would stay in that. But when we're looking at the change in technology and the changing in careers, what we want to do is look at let's just scope out from the next maybe 5 to 10 years. What you know about yourself now, what would look good, and know that many careers will sort of build off of each other, but instead of focusing on what do I want to be doing when I'm 50, let's just look at maybe what you want to be doing when you're 25, because we're going to build that off of based on what you know about yourself, the skills that you have and that you think you want to learn more on or develop more, and then also what your values are. And we all know that over the course of our life, those things will change as we get new life experiences. Because I'm certain if I ask anybody in this room that's 40 or older, if what they value now was necessarily the same things they valued when they were 18, right out of high school. Because our values, not saying that we don't have some of the same values, but our values shift based on what's going on in our life, like what's important to us. You know, when I was younger, when I worked wasn't as important. I could work any hours. It didn't matter when I was single with no children. Once I had children, it was important to me that I worked a set schedule that accommodated that because that family was important to me. So those things will adjust, and we're not asking you to forecast into the future. We're just saying, let's just look at right now. What do you think you want? And let's work with what's available to make that decision. Eighth one, really, that one to me is let's not defer our decision making to other people, because many times when we're uncertain and we're unable to make a decision, other people will kind of persuade you and say, I think you should do this. So my whole goal in working with people is, and this happens more often with young people than older people, but my whole goal is to empower you. You know yourself better than anyone. So my job is to kind of just help navigate getting that information to the surface and showing you how that might fit in different career areas and where you might excel in being most satisfied, and also where it might be a challenge and it might be a conflict to what you like to do and what you want to do. And then 9 just emphasizes the fact that career planning is really a lifelong process. I mean, if you look at the statistics on changing careers, the other thing, there are careers that will be available 10 years from now that you're not choosing from right now. And the example that I use is when I graduated from high school and when I graduated from college, there was no such thing as the internet. I know that's hard for many of you to believe, but there was no internet. And you think of all the occupations that have been created by the internet. So when I was making career choices, that whole pool of occupations wasn't even in existence. Not that I've tried now navigated in that world, but just know that there could be jobs out there in the next 20 years that aren't even available to you to choose from now. So what our goal is and I'll get this in the next couple of slides, is to try to get you into an area of, do you like to work with things, ideas, people, or data? That's one summary that we try to break it down into. Things are more hands-on. People obviously interacting, using interpersonal communications, people. Ideas, you're more analytical problem solver, or data. So you like to work maybe with numbers, okay? So what we want to do is maybe get you in the right, if I can say right silo, and then chances are you will develop, if you are someone that ends up changing your careers 3, 4, 5, 6 times, all those skills will build off of. They may be different careers, but everything that you've done and everything that you learned will build off of that. So all the things, I guess 9, all I have to do is pick an occupation, things will fall into place. I guess I kind of, I've been emphasizing that the whole line is you really just sort of navigate as you get more information, you make adjustments accordingly. Some of you might be interested, let's say our criminal justice program is the program that you're most interested in, but you say, but I really don't want to be a law enforcement officer. Well, there's multiple careers within law enforcement that you can do with that training. Granted, a large proportion of the students that enter criminal justice are thinking that. So part of it may be is, I think I want to study criminal justice, but I don't think I want to be a law enforcement officer, so how do I navigate and explore that? Or somebody might start as a law enforcement officer, work it for 5 years, and then move into another occupation. So once again, it's a process. It's not a matter of I'm going to make the decision today and then I'm going to have it and get this degree and I'm going to have it all figured out for the rest of my life, because I think most of you that have navigated the world of work already know that it's not always that easy, and most people don't navigate it that way. And then number 10, there's very little I can do to learn about an occupation without actually working in it. A lot of times I hear, well, I don't know if I'd like to be a law enforcement officer. I don't know if that's something I'd like to do. So we encourage things like ride-alongs. We encourage the job shadows, talking to a variety of law enforcement officers, finding out what they like and dislike about the job, and then looking at yourself internally and going, you know, what they like, would that be something I like? Maybe there's something they say they wouldn't like, and you look at yourself and go, but I think that would be really fun. So really it's about connecting with people that are actually doing the occupation, because the first things that we do in high school is we say, research your career and write a paper about it. But really what we need to do is we need to connect you to the people, the professionals that are actually have the lived experience doing those occupations. So we really encourage job shadows, informational interviews, talking to our faculty. The majority of the faculty in all of our programs have lived experience in doing those careers. So our auto instructors actually worked in the profession. All of our programs have advisory boards, so we bring the employers to our college with our faculty twice a year, and they talk about what's happening in their industry and what they want their graduates to know. So certainly don't just stick with a job description or a career description off the internet. I always say out of a book, because like I said, I've been here 25 years, so we used to use the library to do this. Now we go to the computer lab. But certainly you want to do that research, but you also want to reach out to people with some lived experience. So this is just a summary of what our, I'm going to start here, and maybe you can hand these out because I copied them, and this is the last session, so everybody can take one. This is a summary of what is, I think, a good plan. So some of you might be coming to me already at like step 3. You've already done some self-assessment. You're kind of self-aware of what you like and don't like, and you've narrowed it down to a couple programs. And maybe you just need to do a little bit more intensive research on those couple of occupations and compare and contrast them. And you know, you can come in for a one-on-one appointment, and we can kind of start you with step 3. I find out where you're at, and we get you started. But many people need to start in that step 1, and it really is, I use the example of putting a puzzle together. So, you know, your interest is one puzzle piece. Your skills or desire to learn new skills is another puzzle piece. Your values, both personal and your work values. You know, what's important to you in life? How much money do you want to make? What kind of hours do you want to work? Do you want to be a leader, or do you want to be a follower? I mean, do you want to know exactly what's expected of you, or do you want to be the person making the decisions about what everybody else is going to do? So we really have those conversations about who you are first. So your personality traits. Are you flexible? Are you more rigid and more structured? Rigid sounds like a negative word. So more structured or flexible, both positive in different work environments. But if you get yourself in a really structured work environment and you're a highly flexible personality, that can cause you some dissatisfaction and frustration. Likewise, if you're really structured and you're required to be more flexible, that's not going to work well either. If you want to be a leader, but you're put in a position where you kind of do what you're told and you can't make any decisions, that causes conflict. So I always say that, to me, this is probably the most important step. And we all know that we only know what we know at the point in time of life that we're at. So at 17, 18, we know something about ourselves, obviously, and we're going to work with that. But we also know that when we're 25 or when we're 35 and 45, with all of our life experiences, it teaches us a little bit about ourselves, and with each work experience. So that's why this being a process in which, you know, it can be constantly changing if you really want to maintain that satisfaction. So you might start that first job and love it, and then all of a sudden 6, 7, 8 years into it, you go, you know what, this isn't making me happy anymore. And it could be some changes that have occurred in you, so you need to kind of assess that and then make adjustments accordingly. And it may mean just shifting a job within the same company that you're working in, or it may mean changing companies, depending on what's going on. I already talked about the educational research, and then just the goal setting. A lot of what we do is really compare, this is who you are, this is the occupations that you're considering, how do they match up, how might they conflict? So that's really our job as the career counselors, to sort of listen to what you're presenting, and then looking at the information about the career and figuring out how they're best going to fit. You know, you could get an accounting degree here at Fox Valley Technical College, and it may look very different working for a small business doing their payroll versus working for an accounting firm in the city of Appleton. You're learning the same skill of accounting, but you're working in two different environments. So that's the other thing that we talk about with our current students as they're nearing graduation is, what do you think is going to be the best fit for you? So for those of you that are visual, this is really the puzzle that we're trying to put together. Filling in, like, what are the things that you like? Sometimes I start with people and I say, I give them our program list and I say, cross out all the things that you know you don't want to do. I mean, I have all different kinds of ideas and approaches, because sometimes when I try to find, like, what do you like to do? I get a lot of I don't knows. So I'm like, okay, for some reason, some people it's easier for them to tell me what they don't like to do. So I'll say, well, let's just start with our programs. I'm going to put that out. What do you know that you wouldn't want to do? And we'll just eliminate all those, and then we'll start working with what's left and look for a common theme. Skills, a lot of times people are like, well, that's why I'm coming to college, because I don't have any skills. We all have skills. We all have aptitudes. You're all here at this point in time. You've learned and have some skills, whether you have work experience or not. So we really dig deep in terms of what are those things. What things come easy to you? What things do you struggle with? And just because you struggle with them doesn't mean you have to eliminate them. It just means that you're going to have to work harder to achieve them, particularly if you're going to go to school. Somebody's interested in nursing, okay, but you say, you know, I really am interested in nursing because I want to help people. I think I'd be really good at it. I'm compassionate. I'm patient. I think I'm a good decision maker. I think I can lead. I think all those things they think, and then they say, hey, but you know, I really struggle with math and science. I'm not going to cross it off the list. We're just going to have to put that on there and say, okay, that's a potential barrier, but what are the resources I'm going to use to overcome that? So we try to lay it all out at the front end so you know sort of what you're up against and how you're going to navigate that. And then the values are those things about what's important to you in life and how can your career, you know, support that. Like I had mentioned with my hours. My family, once I had children, it was important that my hours accommodated the schedules that they had. When I didn't, now I'm an empty nester, so I can work whenever. That's not as important to me. So life circumstances, those are just your situation, because we also help you in the decision-making process, because many students come to us in the community and they come from different situations. Some are going to be coming to school full-time with no job and that's financially supported. Others are coming to us working full-time with families and maybe can only take 1 or 2 classes a semester. So just so you know, that's all part of that puzzle too, is looking at your circumstance and figuring out how we can best help you achieve the goal of what it is that you're looking to achieve. Just one more slide. How many of you have already stopped in the application room in E130? Did any of you walk in there? Nobody? Okay, so they're taking admission or applications with no admission charge today. But obviously if you go in there, they're going to ask you what program. So when you apply, you have to pick a program at the college. However, if you go in that room and tell them you're undecided, they'll walk you to the back room, which is through a door. And in there, there's some counselors and advisors helping you kind of sift through some things to see if maybe you're closer to a program idea than not. And they will have you create a profile. And if you create a profile, and you attend either a career development workshop or work with a career counselor before December 14th, they'll still waive that $30 application fee. So if tonight you just like, I just do not feel comfortable going in there and filling out an application and picking a program, know that you can go through, tell them you're undecided, they'll walk you to the back, and somebody will help you create I don't know what, some profile, I don't remember what the name of it is, and then you have until December 14th to pick a program. So one of the handouts that I have up here, and I'll hand it out, are the career development workshops that are for the remainder of the semester. We have flex times on there. There's a couple that talk about a collaborate session. It's the first time we're going to be doing those this semester, where you can actually take the class live from home. So I think he's handing them out. So do you have a couple? Yeah, it's okay. So this would be my first suggestion, but we also recognize that people come from different areas and have busy schedules. So we have options for individual career counseling also, and you can pick up a counseling card or you can stop in the counseling office and schedule that. We offer career counseling at both the Appleton campus and the Oshkosh campus, but keep in mind that these sessions that are Collaborate, if you live outside any of these areas and you have internet access, you can sign up for one of those classes and you'll be taking it like Skype or FaceTime live. So it's not an internet class where you can do it any time. You're actually interacting with an instructor and the class via the internet from home. So that's an option. And a lot of the assessments that we use in that workshop use this theory, and they're actually kind of introducing you to it in that room where they're taking applications, where they're kind of exploring people's interests based on these 6 categories of this career planning theory. Realistic is more hands-on, so if you know you're somebody that likes more hands-on those things occupations, it would be realistic. Investigative is more ideas, and that's like more science and math problem solving, analytical problem solving. Artistic does not necessarily mean you're good at art or you draw. Typically that is more of a creative. You have more of a creative problem solving nature. It could mean music, art, writing, that type of stuff, but oftentimes it can be creative problem solving. For example, counselors actually capture some of the artistic category. Social does not mean you're a social butterfly, because sometimes people score high in social, indicating they go like, well, I'm not real social. But typically what that demonstrates is that you have an interest in helping others, so you want to connect, and it might be more one-on-one. So I like to call social more of the supportive cluster, so you have a supportive personality and interests. Enterprising, I say if the words directing, leading, persuading, directing jump out at you, like you go, yeah, that's me, chances are there's probably careers in that category that will connect to some of your interests. And then conventional is more structured personality. People that like routine, like to know exactly what's expected of them, oftentimes work with data. Okay, so numbers and that type of stuff. So maybe like accounting or bookkeeping or something like that might fall in there. So this is the model that we help you start to explore your interest as well as your skills. Then we add on the puzzle pieces of like what's important to you, what are your values, and then we start helping you identify, for those of you that feel like you're clueless and you don't have an idea, we begin to help suggesting some things like, what about these things? And more often than not, when I meet with students, whether it be in the workshop or one-on-one, more often than not, people have some ideas, but there's something standing in their way of just saying it. And it can be because they fear what other people are going to think if they say that's what they want to do. Sometimes it's just the fear of failing, like they don't have the confidence that they can do it, so it's better off just telling people I don't know what I want to do than to say this is what I want to do, because once I say it, then I actually have to put that into action. So as a counselor, I sort of help sift through and navigate if fear might be interfering with the decision-making process. So, you know, it can be multiple things, but by no means is it simple, but it certainly is achievable. And for some people, you know, we do this workshop in 6 hours, and it's not like I say, I don't guarantee in 6 hours you're going to have a decision, but we're certainly going to have given you the tools to make a decision when you're ready. And then we always have to factor in the reality of your life circumstances in terms of what your availability is to attend school, the affordability, your geographic, your location, how can you get to classes. All those things play a part in decision making. I say our job is to retain students. So when we start, we want them to graduate. But we also know that students are more likely to retain if they start school with a goal in mind and they can see what that's going to look like. That's where they get their intrinsic motivation. Because me telling, or parents or somebody else saying, you know, you should go to college, or just going because it's the expectation, usually isn't enough for the motivation. It's this is what I want to do, and this is what I need to do to get there. So that's really another part of this process. Is it's not me telling you or a test telling you. It's you saying, you know, I've done the work, and given my situation at this point in time, this seems like the best choice for me. And know that you can adjust and change it along the way too. So nothing is ever in stone. And the key is you have to seek help. You have to ask for help, and sometimes that's one of the hardest things for people to do. So I don't know, what I've been finding in these group sessions is nobody really wants to ask a question in a large group, so I'll hang around back here for a while if you would like to ask me some questions. There's just one more slide I want to throw up there. Whoops. I tried doing that with my left hand. I am not skilled at my left hand, that's for sure. So that was the, just, I think, be flexible to make changes to your plan if needed, and utilize the staff here. It's a free service to the public, so certainly we encourage the workshops because we don't have enough staff to meet everybody one-on-one. Know that as part of the workshop you will get to have individual support, but it's much easier for us to deliver to large groups or larger groups, and usually there's about 12 to 16 students. It's another way just to get yourself here in the on the campus in a classroom. And the workshops will range people from anywhere from 17 to people in their 60s. It really is a dynamic group in teaching each other about experiences, because when the 17-year-old introduces themselves, the 50-year-old goes, I remember when I was 17. So it, you know, it becomes a great support for each other as we all navigate. Okay? That's all I have. Thanks for coming to Open House. And once again, if you want to go to the pre-application, they'll navigate you back to the undecided and help you put up a profile so you can still take advantage of that $30 application fee being free as long as you make some decisions by December 14th. Okay?